morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to be here just to share with you guys some of my teaching experience while my 5-week stay in Brisbane. First off, I want to introduce my school, Dayuan. It's located near CKS Airport, and it's kind of a remote school. And most students there, after their graduation, half of them will go to a vocational high school. So you can imagine that most of our students are lower proficiency English learners. So that's why I come up with this idea of how to teach them how to use the summary strategies while they're learning. So, okay, first of all, let's take a look at this picture. Summarize. So it's kind of play on words. The teacher asked a student to summarize the content, not give the sum to the book. So it's not strange because I believe most of our students, they don't know how to summarize. Believe me, yeah. And I know some of elementary school students, they teach students how to summarize. But in our mother language, in Chinese, but we seldom emphasize on how to summarize in English. Okay. So here's a brief introduction to what summarization. It teaches students how to take a large section of text and reduce it to main points for more concise understandings. And it also helps students to learn to determine essential ideas and consolidate important details that supports them. It's a way to teach students how to discern the most important ideas in a text and how to ignore irrelevant or not necessary ideas in a large context because in the traditional ways of teaching, students have to absorb a lot of readings. And my students here, I teach 2 grades. One is 7th graders and the other is 9th graders. The 9th graders, they are the last one to take the BCT test. So I want to reduce their pressure by teaching them some of the very basic skills. As the teacher just mentioned, how can we help them to improve their English abilities? I think teaching is quite a personal thing. It depends on what teacher believes, and our job here is to help them. Although sometimes we will face some obstacles, but you always have to keep faith in yourself and also in your students. Like I mentioned, my students, most of them are lower proficiency in English. Somehow, but I don't give them too much pressure, and I won't give myself too much pressure because I know that's what they are. And just like the teacher mentioned that you may have some higher standards. You are very serious to yourself. You want to improve your teaching. You want to help your students. That was me about 3 years ago when I first came to that school. I was shocked. I was shocked by how they can perform so poorly in English, and they are not willing to participate while in English class. So I guess that's the most common problems we all face in the real classroom situations. But it's okay. I just think we can always come up with new ways to teach, and that's why I want to participate in this project. Because we can learn from our peer teachers, and we can give each other good ideas, and we can encourage each other and help us to go on to carry on in this career. Okay. So what's the benefits of summarizing? Summarizing text by using writing activities builds on prior knowledge, helps improve writing and strengthens vocabulary skills. It's a mnemonic technique that enables students to focus on keywords and the phrases of an assigned text that are worth noting and remembering. The text I use here, which I will present to you guys later, is from Kangxuan, book 5. It is a paragraph about night markets in Taiwan. I think this is a topic which can really relate it to their students' lives. Just like the former presenters said, if we show them something is too far away, it's not related to their daily lives, they are not interested to it at all. Just like you tell them how great the Shakespeare's poems are, it's totally beyond their comprehension. So they won't be interested at all. Okay, so how to do it? It's quite simple. First, to delete unnecessary information, and to generalize the context, and select and write the topic sentence, and polish the sentences and sum it up. First of all, I have to confess that it's already hard enough for them to summarize the text in Chinese. That's a fact. It's even harder. You have to teach them to summarize in English. So the first thing we teachers do, we have to demonstrate. We have to show them how to do the summarize, how to summarize. So the examples I present today, some of them is I tell them how to do, and then you may see some beautiful sentences there, but actually it's what I told them how to write, because they have no idea how to write the concise and grammatically correct sentences. But I think it's okay. Just like I said, the students I teach, ninth graders, most of them will directly go to vocational high schools. I just want them to have a motivation of keep learning English and not to reject when learning English. Okay, actually there are various ways to teach students to do the summarized activities. Here I want to present 3 of them. One is mind mapping, and 2 is worksheet, and the last one you might have already know is a running dictation. A mind map is a diagram used to visually outline information. It is created in a single word. You can use a single word or a text, and then you add the other information which is related to your concept or the idea, and to form this diagram. Actually, it can be presented in various ways. It can be drawn by hands, or either just a note you take in a class or a section. And the other terms for the mind mapping are spider diagrams or mind webs. It has many applications in personal, family, and educational or business situations. Therefore, I think it's quite useful for students to pick up the skills to do the mind mapping. And actually, it's easier for them to pick up these skills. So here are the examples here. Like I mentioned, the topic today is Taiwanese food. So these students, just like the other teacher mentioned, they are very good at drawings. So you can see they have drawn beautiful cartoon characters. And I asked them to, first of all, to think of the Taiwanese snacks in night markets, and then have to go home and to find out how to say it in English. So that's the first thing I do. And then I ask them to draw this, my mapping. So here we can see, can you guys see the picture clearly? What's this? Pearl milk tea, thank you, and this boiled dumplings, and this a 1,000-year egg, and the last one, pig's blood cake. And it's interesting because some of the snacks we are really familiar to it, but we seldom think of how to say it in English. So teaching is learning. Some of the things we might have been forgotten, but the students will remind us. Okay, so here are another two examples here. This student, she draws a heart shape. It's like this is what I call spider web. You can just simply put the keywords in it, and then you draw a lot of lines, and the others are the information which is related to the topic. And this one, because I do this section is around Christmas. So this student, she draws a Santa Claus here and the reindeers. Okay. After doing the mind mapping thing, I try to teach them how to write a simple summary. First of all, I type the reading in a A4 size paper. So here is the reading. I mark is in Taiwan. And then I divide this into two parts. First, write down main ideas of the article. Then this is a time when teacher has to come in. You have to tell them how to write. And then they use three sentences to express their ideas. And then I ask them to concise the summary into a more shorter one, only into one sentence. And look at this worksheet. I also ask the students to underline the main ideas because like the first procedure is to delete unnecessary information. So by underlining, the students will have a clear idea of what's the point of the whole reading. Okay, you see some of the, this is a boy student. His handwriting is quite neat. So I choose his work to put it in this presentation. Okay, so this one is called Sum It Up Worksheet. Actually, I look up in many websites, so it's not just my own ideas. I look upon many other people do, and just kind of adapt it into it my own. So it's kind of smaller here. So first of all, ask the students to write down the main ideas according to the previous reading. And then you can see students will write some vocabularies they remember or they think is the keywords. But some of them might not be correct, but it's okay. And then you have to summarize into a sentence. What does it mean for 100 NT dollars? According to the text, students have to write down the even shorter sentences. Sum it up for 100 NT dollars means, imagine they only have 100 NT dollars. If you write each word, will cost you 5 NT dollars. So try to narrow down the summary into the one sentence. The words cannot surpass 20 words. When doing this kind of activities, it's important you have to ask students some framework questions. Like 1, what are the main ideas of this article? 2, what are the crucial details necessary for supporting the ideas? And number 3, what is irrelevant or unnecessary. Like I said, my students, they are not familiar with this type of teaching process. So a lot of time the teachers have to guide them how to think. So maybe in this part of discussion, we may have to do this in Chinese. Otherwise, it may be hard for them to understand. Okay. So here's another worksheet of the student. Some students, they can use very precise words. The others, you can see they may have some grammatical errors, and like I said, they cannot write down the very beautiful sentences, but I think at least they try, so it's it's okay. Okay, then here comes the part of the running dictation. I personally highly recommend this activity, even though it's really time-consuming. But it's a great way to brighten a tired class. The rules are very simple. First of all, this is what I do. I type the reading into an A4 size worksheet and place them around the class. You can either place it in the blackboard or the wall or the door of the classroom. And then you divide students into several groups. Again, the activity, it has various variations. You can come up with your own. Depends on the level of your students. If your students, they are all high level students, you can use the harder ones. If they are not good enough, it's okay. You can use the easier ones, which is what I did. Each group, you have to choose one writer, and the others, they are runners. So these designated writers, they sit in the first row of the class, and then the other runners, they go to the places, which I'll give them numbers, like first group come here, and then second group over there, and they have to go over there and to memorize the sentences. One person for one sentence, that's long enough. Then they can read it and remember them by heart. But there are 3 rules. First of all, they cannot remove the paper, and then they cannot shout across the classroom. Otherwise, they lose the meaning of running. And the other part is they are not allowed to take any pens or papers, just in case they will cheat in these activities. And actually, this activity, I use it as a wrap-up activity. During the whole lesson, the traditional way we teach vocabularies, dialogues, grammars, and the last part is reading. And I use this running dictation is the last part of the session. And there's other things I need to mention is that what if the students forgets the sentences? It's okay. You can allow them to go back to the walls to reread this again, and then go back to their groups and tell the writers what they have memorized. And then they have to put the sentence into the correct order. And this activity is around, you don't have to do it in the whole period. Maybe 20 minutes to 30 minutes will be long enough. And that's why I use this in the 9th graders, because the readings in the 9th graders textbooks, they are more meaningful. They have much to talk about rather than the 7th graders or the 8th graders. And after the activities, I will switch these papers, and then they will give each group a score. So here's the process while we're doing it. Actually, if you can control this the class, the teachers are quite easy. Just stand there and supervise the whole class. If you don't have the faith whether the students will totally under your control, then you can give them some rules by telling them you have to lower your voices and not to shout, not to affect other classes. Then most of them they will obey, because students in our school they love playing games. It's painful for them just sit there and watch teachers teaching. So they can actually really get around and go to the different parts of the classrooms. And in the middle of it, they are the winning group. And I give them a little prize. It's a chocolate cookie as a prize, and then they all love it. And I think it's a great activity because it combines multiple skills like speaking, listening, reading, and writing, in addition to making the students work together. And I find these activities quite useful. And after class, I asked a few of the students what their opinion about these activities. They find it fresh and interesting. Yeah. Although it takes some time for teachers to do the previous preparation, but I think it's worth it. Okay, to sum up, one of the best gifts teachers we can give to our students is to teach them how to recognize and to distinguish information, and to help them organize and memorize the information. This is the goal to learning as well as teaching. Since we all know we are facing a new challenge in our career, so now it's quite chaotic right now. But I think we need to renovate our thinking and the ways of teaching, so that we can keep our enthusiasm in this career. Okay, I want to give special thanks to all the staff of NTNU and the QUT. They are very friendly, they are very patiently for answering all our questions while we are before we go or after we arrive Australia. The staff from QUT, they are very helpful. And the teachers who participate in this program, they are very dedicated to their teaching, and they are very friendly, and they are great companions while staying in the other countries for such a long time. So I'm really grateful to them. And also I want to thank my family and the colleagues. Actually, one of my colleagues is here to see my presentation. I want to thank her for that. And last but not least, for all the students, every student have their own weakness and their own strengths. Sometimes you have to look upon their strengths rather than their weakness. After all, they are children, so don't be too serious with them. Another point I want to mention that I highly recommend all the teachers, if you haven't participated in the program, you can definitely do so, because it's a whole new experience. Maybe I believe most of the teachers here, you have more experience than I do. So it's easy for us to have a situation that we just got stuck in what we are now. So if we just make ourselves into another whole new strange environment, we can learn and we can grow. And I think this program, although it's tiring and we have papers to work on after we came back, but I think we can still learn a lot from this experience. So thank you all for your listening.
Very much. Yeah, it's some learning experience. 5 minutes left for questions. Okay, any questions? For your information, the junior high school group will go to Western Washington University in America. Okay, very close to Seattle and very close to Vancouver too, in between. Okay, questions before we break for lunch? No? Okay, we've seen some examples of writing as well, but basically this is from reading strategies. Summary is not the easiest thing to do. Reading, writing connection, we talk about, write about what you read, what you think, and summarizing, people think that it's easier because you don't have to create new ideas, but actually it's not easy. It's different from retell. They have to get the higher level, they have to get the main point because it has to be short, right? But it's certainly worth teaching. It's certainly a very important skill, a very important cognitive skill as well as reading skills. Okay? And I'm really glad to see these 3 presentations. You almost forget that you are listening to junior high school teachers. You think these are senior high school examples, but actually these are junior high school classes. And that proves that these people help convince us that we can get our junior high school students to engage in activities like this. It's not enough to tell them to copy some sentences, to memorize some sentences, to do some grammar exercise. They can do this kind of activities. Okay? And that's how we push the participant to do some action research. If we don't have this opportunity, they'll probably just take the course and forget about it. But when you actually implement it in your classroom, you learn something, and whether it's positive or negative, if it's positive, you keep doing this. You convince yourself that this will work. And once you convince yourself, you will never go back to the old way of just talking about grammar. Okay? So if you don't have any questions, I'm going to say, let's go get our lunch box. Right? We'll come back here at 1:30 for another big group presentation from Jeff.